Yeah, good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I would like to thank NBI and Fintelekt for giving me this opportunity, not only delivering the session, but meeting all lovely bankers of Nepal, and majority is a young crowd, so that is again very nice to see you all, and I will try to do full justice to the topic, sanction screening. Where's my, it's there, I'll put next. Sanction screening, best practices. Okay, so sanction screening, as in the morning, Arpita has already told the importance of sanction screening. Since it is informed that you all are preparing for the mutual evaluation, and sanction screening is a very, very vital and very integral part of AML CFT. Looking at the importance of sanction screening, in today's session we are having two sessions. In fact, I think every session sanction screening has been covered to some extent. Even after me, we have Spencer, who is going to also take one session for more of a practical approach. Here I am here to, as a practicing banker, I am here to give you all some tips on how to do this, how to conduct this function very efficiently. And let me tell you all that directly, the topic said best practices, but I cannot directly jump to the best practices. Need to give some background of sanction screening. So out of my 10 slides, 5 slides are theoretical. I'll try not to make it boring because it is theoretical, and I will also do it faster. But then for the practical part, I'm there. I'll also be happy to take a lot of questions on the practical part, because I may not know what problems you people are facing, and so I would just, the theory part, I would just move on faster. So sanction screening is an integral part of AML CFT regulation, and it is vital in the fight against money laundering and terrorism. Sanction breaches constitute serious offenses and can result in heavy penalty fines. You all must have heard a lot of news on that, like, way back in 2017, it was Habib Bank, Pakistan. Now I also have next slide for one of this. I had a lot of things, but I didn't want to increase those penalties and slides and scare you all, because I know generally after seeing such slides, when you go back home, you are like, oh God, where am I? It's all said and done. All AML and compliance and risk officials are themselves on a hot seat, facing a lot of risk themselves. So, but still, I didn't want to elaborate more on penalties. But all said and done, it is a very, very serious offense, and we need to really understand sanction screening in a proper way. The need for it also is very important. So, given the importance of sanctions and potential cost of non-compliance, Arpita said, cost of non-compliance is much, much higher than the cost of compliance. So, going for automation, please do not think twice. These are all really required. Generally, it is, there in every bank, every country, it is like, okay, business guys, they are bringing profit. Compliance, risk, they are just, boja hai bank ke upar. They are like, burden for the bank, There are awards to the business guys for bringing business. There is no awards for AML professionals, So still, we should be proud that we are AML professionals. We are taking care not only of our organization, we are taking care of our country, of the entire world. We are participating, we are contributing for the safety for the AML CFT protection. Okay, so given the importance of sanctions and potential cost of non-compliance, banks should be familiar with sanction screening best practices to ensure their AML CFT programs deliver the results they require. Okay. So as I told you all, next slide, not to scare you all, but yes, these are happenings. There were many more. I just took one, and one I could mention about Habib Bank. So Bank of China paid 2.3 million penalty to OFAC for violating Sudan sanctions. Over 111 commercial transactions totaling over 40 million were processed by Bank of China UK on behalf of the participants in Sudan between September 14 to February 16. So this is one of it. Then in case of Habib Bank, what they were doing was, what was alleged on them was that they were doing wire stripping. That is, while sending the cross-border wire transfers, they were keeping the account numbers and the bank names correct, but they were changing the names. Why? Because if they try to screen those names, they were from the OFAC sanction list. So that's why they used to put different names on the bankers, were the other parties, were related parties, and regulators were initially not able to identify these transactions. However, then they were penalized for around US $630 million. Spencer will of course elaborate on other such events, but let us understand what we mean by sanction. Sanctions are political and economic decisions that are part of diplomatic efforts by countries, multilateral or regional organizations against states or organizations, either to protect the national security interests or to protect the international law and defend against threats to international peace and security. Let me tell you, sanction screening is more towards terrorism. Money laundering is of course there, they all go hand in hand, but this is more towards terrorism, more towards the political impacts across the world. So the UN Security Council has a mandate by the international community to apply sanctions Article 41 that must be complied with by all the UN member states. Okay? We are all, Nepal is also a UN member, we are all bound by the sanction screening regulations of UN. Okay? There are different other things also. The various types of sanctions, various countries who are in, it is not only UN sanctions, it is OFAC sanction, UK sanction, EU sanctions, all are equally important because we are somewhere or the other dealing with these countries, these currencies. Okay? The different types of UN sanctions is economic. I will just click all and keep it ready so that, yeah. So economic sanctions, typically a ban on trade. Okay, so there could be, entire trade is stopped, or sometimes there are some limited items, commodities on which trade is banned. Or sometimes entire trade is banned, but there are exclusions like food or medicines where they permit the trade. So sanction is quite a tough topic, let me tell you. To be covered in 45 minutes or 1.5 hours is not really this, because there are a lot of intricacies in it. You cannot just read one small news and decide what is the sanction. You have to enter to find out what are the different types of sanctions there. Whether is it an economic sanction? Sometimes it is diplomatic sanction, that is they withdraw the embassies from that country, their own country. So that is the diplomatic sanctions. Then there is military sanctions. For military sanctions like arms embargoes or termination of military assistance or training to that country. Okay, so that is again military sanctions. Sports sanctions, that is a decision is taken by the country that that country's sportsmen will not come in our country, or our country's sportsmen will not go in that country. So that is sports sanction. And then when you'll say, okay, as a banker, what do I have to do with sports sanction? But you have to check whether there are any transactions happening related to this sports activity. So you need to be aware of it. Then the last one comes as sanctions on environment. It's like, all the environmental crimes So, if it is found that in some country there are a lot of environmental crimes, a decision can be taken by UN or OFAC or EU to impose sanction on that country. I can just read out some illegal crimes, environmental crimes like illegal emission or discharge of substances into air, water or soil, illegal trade in wildlife, illegal shipment or dumping of waste, illegal trade in ozone depleting substances. Many of these are predicate offenses, and so it is an environmental crime, and so every country is expected to keep a watch on all these crimes, and there are some reportings also related to these crimes. So these are the 5 crimes, as I told you all. So maybe I won't have time to discuss every EU and UK all sanctions, but we all know dollar is our king. We all have to some way or the other handle dollars in our trades. So that's why I thought at least I should cover OFAC. Afterwards I came to know that Spencer is there, but still I thought, okay, I'll just touch base on it. So OFAC means the Office of Asset Control. The US Department of Treasury administers and enforces economic and trade sanctions. Okay, economic and trade sanctions based on US foreign policy and national security goals against targeted foreign countries. Who all are bound by OFAC sanction? Are all you participants here, are your organizations bound by OFAC sanction? Yes. Why? There are different areas, like first and foremost, if you are having a US branch, you are bound. If you are a US bank and operating in Nepal, you are bound by OFAC sanction. Okay, but thirdly, there are many other cases, as I told you, a lot of other conditions, but very, very important is we all are dealing in US dollar, for which we all are maintaining correspondent banking arrangement with some banks, Citibank, Standard Chartered Bank, or whichever. There are many US banks with whom we are having a Nostro account. So the moment we route any of the transactions related to OFAC through these accounts, they will immediately freeze your account. They will not even give you the balance amount. They will stop the transactions. And imagine if overnight your US dollar transactions stop. Just imagine. You all will just collapse. So that is the one reason you should not think, I don't have any US branch, I don't have maybe not much of US customers, why should I handle it? The very, very important reason is correspondent bank. And that's why if you are having some respondent bank, like if you are catering to the foreign exchange business of some smaller bank who is not having the trade licenses, trade finance license, if you are catering to them, you have to ensure that banks are also adhering to the OFAC sanction rules. For that matter, all sanctions, but yes, OFAC sanction is very, very important. Because suppose the bank who has opened an account with you and they are routing some transactions of some OFAC sanctioned country or SDN list, you will come into trouble. Okay. Now, what are the types of OFAC sanction? One is comprehensive sanction and one is SDN list. Comprehensive sanction is total ban. Means suppose there is a country where I just cannot send any transactions from my country. That is total ban. That is comprehensive sanction. And another one is I can send a transaction, I can do the transactions, like for Russia. We can do the transactions, but there should be no match with the banks in that SDN list, the individuals in that SDN list, the entities in that SDN list. So it is very, very important that SDN lists are checked, If it is not a comprehensive sanction, if it is an OFAC sanction, we have to ensure that SDN lists are checked for any sanctioned entities, or whether you are giving and sending any remittance or receiving any remittance from a sanctioned individual entity, etc., etc. I will cover what all has to be checked going forward. Yeah. Now, when is sanction screening done? This is very, very basic, very, very basic, but still I thought that I should, if I am touching sanctions, I should tell you all that first and foremost, while onboarding any customer, we have to screen the names. Are we screening only the names? If we just screen the name, there are such common names in our countries, even in your country, in India also. Like, you all will have lot of names with Ram Bahadur Thapa. So if you are screening Ram Bahadur Thapa, you are going to get too many false positives, too many matches. So you need some other identity document, identity credentials for matching. Like it will be name along with the driving license number, or your whatever your passport number, your date of birth, your father's name. Some such combinations you will have to check for screening. But one thing, no account should be opened without screening the names. Okay? This is not only limited to sanction, though my topic is sanctions. Let me tell you all should screen it not only for OFAC sanction, Al-Qaeda and Taliban lists, but you all should also have some internal lists of y'all. Maybe, I'm not sure, I didn't get time to find out, but maybe if your regulator is also providing some lists of within country entities and individuals which should be sanctioned, with whom transactions should not be done. You must be having some local media news lists, some PEP list. It's not that you should not do transactions with PEP, but if it is a PEP, you should know that he is a PEP. You should be doing enhanced due diligence. You should be monitoring it. This is as per PMLA. Okay. So PEP list also has to be screened. There are several lists which have to be screened along with these sanction screens list. You can maintain an internal list of yours where you have found some frauds detected within your bank, and you can put those names in the list because tomorrow he may come to some other branch and open an account. So that is the reason you should screen it across all the lists. Then next is entering into new relationship. Here I wanted to say, whenever you are entering into, as Sharad has touched, the digital. Nowadays we are having lot of partners, lot of business partners, some merchants with whom you are dealing with. So, or any other such type who are not actually onboarded as customer, but you are doing transactions with them. You all are doing some one-time transactions with them. Still, you are supposed to do the screening of those persons. While hiring an employee, yes, that is also a regulatory requirement. Whenever you are hiring an employee, you should be screening the name and his credentials. Then scheduled or ongoing screening. Okay, now this first three part was at the time of onboarding, new relationship. Now then, today you have hired some person, okay, and you find that you have hired Amita Ajgaonkar, or you have opened account of Amita Ajgaonkar. Today you have not found any such match of her name, But tomorrow, after maybe 6 months, the lists are getting updated. So it happens that Amita Ajgaonkar's name is being put in OFAC sanction list. How will you know? You should know, because at any point of time you are having an account of a terrorist or you should know. So in that case, it is required that not only at the time of onboarding, but afterwards also on daily basis, preferably or periodically, you all should do the screening of these names with the updated list. So screening has to be done at the time of onboarding. Screening has to be done at the time of daily you can do it real time, you can do it daily at the end of the day, you can do it weekly, you can do it periodically. Whatever it is, I am not sure about a regulatory guideline on this, but if there is no regulatory guidelines, still it is really required, and regulatory guideline must be surely there about schedule screening, but I am not sure about the period. So if there is no regulatory guideline about the period, I would recommend at least daily end of the day it should be done. Because today you have opened an account, and by end of the day, if you don't identify it, so tomorrow if something happens, you will be in deep trouble. Okay? So, and that is all with regard to sanction screening done. And yes, last one I forgot, while undertaking cross-border transaction. Any cross-border transaction, any foreign remittances, inward or outward, you have to screen, though you may have screened the name at your account holder at the time of onboarding, you may be screening it on daily basis. But in case of cross-border transaction, you have to not only screen your customer's name again, but you have to also screen, because you are going to do schedule screening at the end of the day. But suppose today morning some name has come in Al-Qaeda list, and that person is your account holder. You are sending some finance, some remittance. It is a terrorist financing. So at the time of remittance, at that juncture, again you have to screen your customer. And not only your customer, here you have to screen the beneficiary. You have to screen all the related parties. Okay, all the related parties. I will come to that point again in the next slide. Yeah. I've already said you have to, now whom are you going to screen? Is it only the customer name? What about the joint holder? Are you not going to screen the joint holder? You are supposed to screen the joint holder. You are supposed to screen if it is an entity account, non-individual account, you have to not only screen the name of ABC and company, but you have to also screen the name of ABC, authorized signatories of ABC and company. You have to also screen the beneficial owners of ABC and company. While screening the ABC and company, you all can also have, in order to avoid shell company money laundering transactions, you all should also have a list of strike-off companies or shell companies list which you may be getting from some public domain, or there are a lot of organization companies who are providing such lists. Okay, so you have to screen the entity name, the authorized signatory, the beneficial owner. Again, coming back to business partners, merchants with whom you are dealing, to whom you are giving the POS machines, or any other partners, any other type of businesses you all are having, and whose accounts are not being maintained with you. Such customers also, you all are supposed to do the screening. And last but not the least is all concerned in cross-border transaction. Who are all concerned in cross-border transaction? I am doing an outward remittance for imports. I am making an outward remittance for imports. I am supposed to screen my customer. I am supposed to screen the counterparty customer. I am supposed to screen all the intervening banks, whether they are in the SDN list, OFAC sanction list. I will be screening all the ports, I will be screening the port, whether it is in any of the sanctioned list. I will be screening the vessels, whether it is in any of the sanctioned list. If there are some intermediary parties, sometimes it is the buyer is somebody else, the consignment goes to somebody else. So I should also know the name of the consignor, to whom the consignment has gone. Consignee, sorry. So that consignee's name has to also be screened. So every party, every vessel, every port which is touched during that period, suppose it is passing through Hong Kong, suppose it is passing through any of the sanctioned ports, it has to be screened. Sometimes the customer says, I know whom I am selling to, but I don't know whom the consignment is going to. My buyer is not revealing me the fact whom the consignment is going to. Please do not allow such things. You have to insist that I should know who is the consignee, because you never know. Money they may manage somewhere else also. So I should know who is the consignee, I should know who is the recipient of the money, and I should know whether the ship is moving through 3 ports, whether all those 3 ports are not in the sanction list. Yeah. So, as I told you all, there are several lists. You can always, again, as Arpita mentioned, compliance cost, don't think of that cost, but subscribe to some such lists. You get it in the market. You can find out which are such service providers. They provide the lists, because just buying a list or getting one list downloaded is not enough. These lists need to be updated on real-time basis. So you need to buy these services from some service providers for providing the list, updating the list on real-time basis. Okay? Very, very important is Al-Qaeda list, Taliban list, OFAC sanction list, EU sanction list. These are all very, very important. Over and above that, you all can have your internal lists, your within-country lists of criminals. Challenges in sanction screening. The most challenging aspect of sanction screening is the diversity of naming conventions. As I already told you all, you need to have even phonetic, but even sometimes phonetic won't work, because in Spanish, JOSC is spoken as HOSC. Then in many, not only one country, I would say, at least in India I know, different states have different way of displaying their name. Sometimes it is a name and surname. Sometimes it is first the village name and then the name. Sometimes it is the name with father's name and surname. Sometimes they don't have surname at all. It is only the father's name which is their surname. So it is very, very difficult to screen those names, you know. For by limit to Nepal and India, in US and especially Britain and all, you know, George Joseph, you will have so many George Joseph. So it's very difficult. So you will need, it means that is a real challenge, you know, for screening. And sometimes what happens, the list may not have much more credentials. A list may not, because every list has its own pattern, own format. Some have passports, some do not have passports, some have alias name, the others do not have alias name. So that is a challenge here. I will tell you how to get over this challenge. And then names on sanctions list may be misidentified because of lack of identifiable and distinguishing features, leaving the possibility for screening to deliver multiple hits or false positive. So biggest problem is false positive for such things. And especially the person who is actually doing this work is really not able to decide on it. And then he is on a hot seat, because tomorrow if something happens, he will be asked, why did you close this alert when it was a terrorist name? So this is a challenge. Secondly, lists are dynamic, as I told you all. They have to be updated on real-time basis. Please do not take not only I'm talking of sanction lists, even your internal lists, There should be a mechanism, there should be a policy, there should be a process that even the internal lists are updated on daily basis. Plus, all this sanction list, OFAC sanction list and Al-Qaeda, there is a provision that they can do it they can update it on real-time basis. Only you may have to go for some service providers because you will have to interface that with your software, AML software, where you are getting the alerts. So you will have to interface that list subscribed from the vendor with your AML software, and then you can get the alerts on daily basis or real-time basis, whatever way you want it to be, and whatever your regulator expects it to be. Create list-wise rules basis the contents of the list. As I already told you, there are some lists, you cannot have a universal formula, okay, I will just screen for name and passport. No, there are some lists which do not have passport. Some of your internal lists may be having some internal document. What is their document, like our Aadhaar card, any document they have? Okay, yeah, I remember, yeah, we also use it in India for Indo-Nepal transaction. Yeah, the citizen card. Okay, so that citizen card number, okay, it will be there for you, but it won't be there in the Al-Qaeda. Okay, so, but for your internal list, you will have a rule of name with citizen card number. So your rules should vary with the list. And for one list, you can have multiple rules. Like you can have, name 80%, because as I told you, there may be space, there may be name followed by surname and name followed by father's name, or there may, so you can have, something like, I'm just saying 80 means something 70%, 80%. You all have to tweak it. You all have to check for the decent alerts to be generated. So, you will have name plus, suppose you have name plus your citizen card number. So what you will have to do is, for name you will have to take some 70%, 80%, and for citizen card you can take 100%, because there cannot be any variation. If it is, date of birth and name, again you can take some part of name. Or if you are confident that every person in Nepal has a citizen card, you do not need you can have 100% citizen card as a rule. But when it comes to Al-Qaeda, you will have to tweak, because there are date of births in it, there are alias names in it, there are nationality in it. So you can have some rule like name plus nationality. Okay. So this is how every list should have separate rules. And build in the rules, and not only that, once you build in, try to review those rules periodically. Try to check whether for those rules, are you getting too many false positives or you are getting too less alerts. So you will have to review those rules periodically to check that you have a very robust mechanism of money laundering sanction screening. Okay. In case of insufficient information, yeah. Now sometimes when the alert is received, your person is really helpless, because whatever alert he has received, it is received on the basis of name and nationality. Okay. What you have to do is go to that list, check what type of crime he has done, when he has done, how, and you can check with your customer, do enhanced due diligence of that customer. Try to find out whether, oh, he is a government employee, then he cannot be this person. Oh, he is just 22 years old and this guy has done this crime 15 years back, so he cannot be that person. So that way there would be required, in some cases, manual intervention would be required. You all will have to do some enhanced due diligence wherever there is a positive match and you are not able to, and the system is not able to really track whether it is correct or wrong. Okay? Over from my side. Any questions? Any practical questions which you all are facing? How many of y'all are really into this sanction screening activity? Actual? Not much. You are there. Yeah.
The ma'am for this wonderful presentation. So I have one question. It's understood that India has a significant amount of trade transaction with some of the countries in Middle East, particularly UAE and other country, and there exists a potential sanction risk because of the close proximity with Iran, right? So I mean, it seems that the trend is like, though the client declares that the port of loading would be from Jebel Ali in UAE, but the actual port of loading will be, Bandar Abbas from Iran. So, that pattern seems to be one of the way to evade sanction related to Iran. So, and that theme or that trend also seems to be applicable for us because, our entities also, import particularly bitumen and other materials from UAE. So, my question is, what is the best practice or what are the additional things that banks in India are adopting, except then the normal name screening of associated parties and basal screening? Are there any other manual controls or any other mitigant factors that bank have deployed there?
Let me tell you, most of the banks in India, before they start allowing trade transactions for their customers, usually there is a cooling period, generally, and more than that, there is always a trade EDD done, trade enhanced due diligence done. So by and large, we are aware of the parties of the customer beforehand. And not only that, during the trade enhanced due diligence, trade EDD we call it, during that time, we do even not only the sanction screening, but we check with what are those agencies, Sharad? Dun and Bradstreet or some such agencies, we check for their creditability of those parties, means the counterparties of our customer. So that gives us quite a lot of comfort that what we are doing, and we try to, and during trade EDD there is a detailed, means it's a very lengthy, there's only after that trade EDD we allow him to do any trade transaction. A person cannot just get up and say, today I want to do some, I'm submitting some bills, you do it and all. We do the trade EDD to find out his business model and who are his regular, who will be his regular buyers or sellers, and who will be the consignees of his, so all that we are taking care of. And we usually, all banks also have a separate cell for checking the documents of, means there are some trained experts who are looking through the documents also. I hope I have answered your question. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay then. Thank you so much.